Mr. Troy Ignacio. Oh, please turn the microphone on.
Okay,
And,
can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, please introduce
All right.
yourself.
My name is Troy Ignacio. I'm from the village of Santa Rita. I was an active duty member since 2008. Currently came back to Guam and all that after residing in California for 2.5 years. For the 2.5 years I was in California, I took part of the industry over there when it was actually ALMA, Prop 215, 64. So I saw the whole turnaround with the whole industry taking part of the economy and everything that upscaled to the downfalls of everything. So I have a lot of experiences as far as knowledgeable experiences in indoor cultivation, extraction, and all that, as far as strain information, basically what strain or type of cannabis is useful and all that for medical patients. Now, with the whole aspect of the whole cannabis stuff, I'm all up for it due to the fact that even though it's temporary relief for most people, that's all they actually look for because the fact that yet nothing's actually permanent. As we speak of, glaucoma or things like PTSD, which I suffer from daily and all that, which yet to the aspect of the individual though, it's all by the required personnel's use of what they feel that is necessary and needed for their consumption. Now with the whole recreational ideal though, Senator, because I've been wanting to meet with you for so long about this, the fact that I was there in California when I saw the whole Prop 64 took place. To be honest with that, it tanked the economy and stuff like that as far as like with the whole monetary gain with Prop 215. Prop 215 and all that, people were making money, as you can speak, from dispensaries to grow houses to individual private sales and all that with labeling to testing and everything. But when Prop 64 came in, everything started to decline. As well, shops started to close down because of the fact that, it got out of hand. And by meaning by getting out of hand and all that, there were just unauthorized retail shops, grow houses opening up in places that are actually, that were supposed to be actually documented or actually undocumented. And with that and all that, over the state line sales were actually, happening a lot frequently, that people will travel beyond state lines to gain access to the whole, cheap cannabis, which I have to speak. But the whole aspect of this thing is not the whole recreational use of who can use it, because even though if it's even introduced medically, the people over 21 will still have access to it medically, though. The restrictions of having to put, recreational in there and stuff like that will prevent the unauthorized use, such as schools, school students, unauthorized grow houses that people will set up and all that, on a company based on anonymity, just to make that few dollars and all that, because they know that the whole product here and stuff like that retails for itself at a valuable amount. But with recreational though and all that, man, with Senator Luis Muñez's own introductory to her bill and all that, if you gave that a little chance of how we actually could play out the medical aspect of it, believe me, you wouldn't need to push the recreational aspect of this, because to having to introduce it to the whole economy locally and all that, you can still introduce it to the whole industry about the whole tourism having to utilize it medically and still have to make money and stuff like that by having them go get referrals from public health and all that. But with the whole recreational thing and all that, we may not just, who knows, instead of having to build up an economy and stuff like that, we might end up just tanking an economy. Pretty sure and stuff like that, I want to see whether there's any plan drafted in case and stuff like that such economy does decide to go to a downfall. What's going to happen there? Well, see, the thing is, we speak of medical and all stuff like that, but we haven't gave Senator Luis Muñez's own, bill that was actually signed into law and all, a chance to prosper, to be honest, like I said, I took part in the whole industry in California from ALMA, Prop 1564. I seen it all, that. But how many people here in the island could you actually say that people could entrust to grow their own medicine, though, without having to actually, undergo, a lot of health issues and stuff like that regarding, highly, inducive cannabis due to pesticides, all those, chemicals induced into cannabis trying to control pesticides and stuff like that shouldn't be used in an indoor cultivation setting. But at the same time, how do they know they're going to get their medical cannabis based on the fact that a grower that just 21 years old, he's 21, he can grow. What do they know how to provide adequate medicine stuff like that to aside from poisoning people that are actually looking for this type of temporary relief? How does it go about there? Also as well, people are facing judicial implications. Parole, probation. What protects them, though, and stuff like that from actually being thrown back into prison, stuff like that, because they're residing 300 feet from my cultivation, home. Who protects them? Nobody. So you see, aside from the benefiting aspect of this, because I can tell you there's a lot of benefiting ways to benefit from this locally, tourismically, and as far as with our economy, which we depend on tourism highly, I can tell you guys how to do it. But it's just that the fact that what's going to protect the people, though, from things like this, when things start to arise, such as, crime rate, undocumented grow houses and all that stuff, people, coming in and out of villages and stuff like that, unexplained hours, what protects them? So we get the fact that, yeah, we all know what the island wants and needs and wants to try. But how do we go about the safety first as far as everything? Because everything could be written down here as, do's and don'ts. But what's going to protect them, though? Because as far as about it, that takes quite a minute for police to get to your own villages and stuff like that, especially in a 911 call. What more of this? Okay? But like I said, Senator, you can still make money the way you want to medically in the medical industry as far as pushing it medically, but recreational. Hope you got a plan for something and stuff like that happens when this industry starts to take a tank and all that stuff. Oh, because the fact that not all tourists smoke weed. Not all tourists want to get high. Not everybody wants to live in Amsterdam. Not everybody wants to party in Amsterdam. Some families like it here and stuff like that. But yeah, it's the aspect where the tourism is going to use the medical cannabis then if it does go recreational. Where? Hotels? I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Public areas, they have no place. There's no appointed area to actually utilize cannabis if this actually goes into effect. But over the medical part, your own home. Your own home is your private residence, stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who actually are pushing to have the medical aspect of this, everything's all done at home, which that's all they want to do, is just utilize what they got to do to take their temporary relief and utilize it at home, and privately and discreetly. But yet, like I said, who's going to protect the people and what's going to protect the people when you decide to go recreational with the whole aspect? Because to be honest, there's no such thing as recreational marijuana. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing. No such thing. But like I said, Senator, if you guys are interested in stuff like that and wanting to furthermore, introduce the new billing and stuff like that will benefit not just the island of Guam and not just the government of Guam, but the people of Guam. We'll sit down, we'll talk.
Thank you, Mr. Ignacio. So just to clarify a couple of things, part of the idea of this bill is that it would help patients get access to it. That's the whole point of it. We have a medicinal law that went into effect that actually hasn't been implemented yet. There's many different stumbling blocks for it. Part of the goal of this bill is to remove a lot of those stumbling blocks to it. And so that's one of the main drivers behind this bill, actually, is to remove stumbling blocks and allow patients to be able to have access to it. Yes, there will be some concerns. Nothing's perfect. So we have to weigh the positive with the negative, and I believe the positive effects far outweigh the negative if we regulate this industry properly, as you were saying, and if we ensure that there aren't illegal grow houses, as you're saying. And currently there are illegal grow houses now that get busted in the news, and I think we should instead bring those guys into the forefront and have them be taxed and regulated so we can start to capture some of the revenues from a market that's already flourishing here on Guam, as has been mentioned by some other people who provided testimony. But with that, I'd like to open it up to my colleagues if they have any questions, comments, or concerns. Anyone?
Senator,
Sure.
I have one more thing to bring up and all of that stuff, which this is very, very important for most and stuff like that. They're actually looking to actually, I guess you could say, start their medicinal, grow. Is how is the island going to obtain actually the seeds to actually bring in and all that stuff for the medical patients? Where are they going to get their cannabis seeds? Who are they going to source out as far as for, seeds that are actually bred medicinally? Because I do have a lot of connections in the mainland regarding breeders that breed cannabis, but now these days and all that, it's no longer bred for medicinal use. It's bred for the whole use of just personal enjoyment, but the whole medicinal stuff, where your source is going to be at? Who are you going to source medical cannabis from? And with that and all that, what percentage of medicinal, cannabinoids are you aiming at to bring in as far as to have supply the island? And because there's different aspects with medical, because it's not just CBD that actually that defines and stuff like that, the whole term of medicinal cannabis is actually the amount of THC in the cannabis. Because for a person to be inducively high in a state where couch locked and they're tired and sleepy where they can't drive and stuff like that, it's anything greater than 10%, really. But medicinal CBDs and stuff like that, and all that range anything from anywhere higher than 5% CBD. Anything lesser than 10% THC and stuff like that, your body is consume at least an ounce of it to get high. So with that and all that, where is the island going to get its supplemental, what do you call that, I guess you could say distributors, or where are they going to get their seeds to bring in and how it's going to be brought in, knowing the fact that, yeah, it's still kind of like federally legal to send these medicinal seeds through the USPS, postal mail, and FedEx, DHL, and all that. So how is that going to come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So currently, we're not allowed to import seeds. So even with the medicinal law that's in effect right now, when I've spoken to the people of public health who are working on implementing the medicinal marijuana, they've said that the seeds would just be from whatever seeds are currently here on island, because they know that there are seeds here on island.
Then if that's the case and stuff like that, then those would not be actually defined as medicinal then. There is no way sustaining that yet seeds that are currently here on the island are actually medicinal. Because anything medicinal and stuff like that, like I said, it is tested in laboratory, not just for the amount of pesticides used, but for what content it actually has and all that, to what cannabinoid percentages does it actually obtain for it to be medicinal. Because anything that has greatest amounts of, like I said, I've seen greater amounts of 30% THC, 0% CBD. What's the medicinal factor there and stuff like that, aside from being lucid? If we had CBD, it's the main proprietary component in cannabis that medicinal patients do need, that yet suffer from all these ailments. Trust me, because I know this. I know this because I studied this in California for 2 years. I took part in the industry, like I said. Getting the seeds here, it is going to be the biggest problem that you're going to face, but yet having to say, we'll just use the seeds on the island, does anyone know if those are actually medicinal, qualified for a patient? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that. So how do we go about trying to get this started without having the right tool to do it? I'm pretty sure you can't put water in a car that takes gasoline and all that stuff for it to go. How do you expect this to kick off and stuff like that if they don't have the right strain to bring in for the medicinal needs for the medicinal patients that they needed? Sure.
Well, I disagree. Currently, people are using it to medicate, so there is medicinal quality here on the island because people use it to medicate already. I've heard testimony from people who today have said that they medicate with marijuana currently, so that means that there are strains here on Guam that can be used for medical purposes. But